Good morning everybody. This video is not about the weekly registrations numbers, which we've got a new data point today. No, I'm just going to ignore that and focus on the long term of NIO prospects here. So this video is more about NIO's path to profitability and what they're doing in the area of self-developed chips. And this is totally in line with what the Chinese government just decided about not publishing any longer the youth unemployment data. It's kind of a stunner, isn't it? They just decided to do so, if you haven't heard it, and not sure how this bodes well with investor confidence. The real data point for the Chinese youth unemployment is probably as high as those two people here in the picture, and the fact that they just, along with other bad economic data points, decided to completely ignore it and not publish it any longer is kind of mind-boggling to me, even as a China bull, I have to say. But in the case of NIO, I do think that those weeklies are, fluctuating quite a bit, and it's the interpretation of it really doesn't add too much value to it. We have to say, of course, they're now a little bit higher than previous month at the same point in time. So that's an optimistic view, but on the other hand, of course, it's going up and down, and I guess it's doing a lot with the investors' expectations. What I'd like to focus on instead is the long-term picture. And here the question is, and I'm asking this myself openly, how can NIO achieve profitability? And that's, of course, very important as a main data point for investors, right? And of course, we need higher volumes in sales, that's without a doubt. But on the other hand, what's happening, let's say, in the back end or on the bottom line, which is about manufacturing. And I've always been a proponent of the approach of NIO to partner with JAC and outsource manufacturing, while NIO is focusing on R&D and on designing the cars, which I think works great and is also importantly a very lean model when it comes to capital expenditure, because they don't have to invest in factories, they don't own them, they have maybe a small team as an oversight in the factories, and they also invest in small tooling equipment, but recently they also sold some off to JAC. So I actually quite like this. However, the question mark here is whether or not with this model they can actually get to profitability, because of course it means a higher revenue split with JAC, or profit split I should rather say. And the question also is how well can the margins develop in such a model? Now, in the past we had very, very good margins with NIO, and we're kind of struggling to get back there, but I'm expecting that margins are gradually improving again from here. Notably because of the volumes being up, but also some general improvements with moving everything on the next platform. Now, what is a sideline of development here is that NIO is trying to vertically integrate more. So, for example, chips manufacturing. They try to develop a full stack chip suite, fully owned, fully in-house, and NIO's executive for it just came out and tweeted about it on Weibo to expect this to happen in the next 1 to 2 years. First of all, I really also like the trend that NIO's more actively communicating outside, at least on Weibo, and we hear from these executives like Xinfei, VP NIO Power, and this guy here for the chips directly from them. So that's some very good things, along with Li Bin, by the way. Now, what does it mean? NIO will, first, there's always this kind of false assumption that NIO is not vertically integrating a lot, and therefore margins will be low. I think that's a wrong way to think about NIO, because, for example, they fully own, 100% own XPT, which is developing the whole platform and including battery management, the engine, and so on. Now, what I think could happen next is that NIO also vertically integrates even deeper, for example, chips. And that should help with margins, and it should also help with the quality of, for example, their autonomous driving division. The question, though, is for me, what's happening with their next factories which they're building? For example, factory 3 and 4. Yeah, you heard me right. They're building 2 more factories, which may be for the sub-brands, right? And I'm wondering whether or not they will still be in some sort of a partnership way and model, like similar to JAC, or if this whole movement here to create their own chips, more vertical integration, and also taking the factory and the manufacturing in their own hands. I'm not sure how I would actually feel about it, to be honest, because as I mentioned before, I like the way that they outsource some of it. On the other hand, maybe it's a necessary step along with the vertical integration, let's say like the chips and stuff, to really prop up these margins and achieve vertical integration, profitability at some point through vertical integration. And on the other hand, on the flip side, that would mean higher capital expenditure. And that's not great if you think about where NIO is actually spending their money, building out infrastructure and marketing the vehicles and investing a lot in R&D for the latest stuff and best technology in vehicles, right? So I'm kind of really watching this very, very closely because if that's a business model shift, it would also bring them much closer to what Tesla already is doing. And I'm not sure if I would really like that, to be honest, as an outlook. I'm hoping they could do kind of a middle way, which would be as much of vertical integration and self-development as possible through their investment in R&D, and therefore achieving the highest quality while still outsourcing most of the parts of their manufacturing to an external party, so that they can really focus a lot on their key resources, key activities, which are, in my point of view, really that they are great at designing and developing. So that's it, a little bit more of a long-term outlook, which I think is more important than those weekly numbers. But you let me know in the comments what you think about it. And then thanks for watching and stay tuned for more content here live from Mallorca.